Hello everyone, and today I am here with the incredible Alla, who's Global Head of Sales at ACY Securities. I'm Clifford Bennett, Chief Economist, and today I love, speaking to you all down the lens, but today Alla's come up with some questions for me, so we'll see how we go. Alla, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
This is our first live interview show. We're going to be doing growing globally on this basis.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Well, first of all, good to see you. It's been like over 2 months since we caught up or so.
That's right, in the lockdown.
Yeah, luckily we live, 5 kilometers apart, so we're still within the same LGA, so we can see each other. You're vaccinated as well. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I have some questions that I've been curious about, and I thought I'll come and ask you that face to face. First of all, I'm very curious about the housing market in Australia and what's going on with the prices. Seems like there's an unbelievable demand, and I want to know what's going on.
I mean, housing has been flying, and there's no doubt about it. So yeah, housing prices have been on a huge run. I was one of the people who was worried about property when the pandemic first hit, and I think everyone was, but it turned out to be just an opportunity to buy. I think the risk the property market faces going forward is that everyone who wants to buy property has bought or is just finishing up now in the buying process. And a lot of those are expanded investment portfolios. And without international travellers, everyone thought international travel would be back a year ago. It's still not back. People are again hopeful, but this Delta virus tends to have a way of sort of getting in the way of the plans we make at a political level or a government level or a health level. So I think there is a risk for a continued delay return of travellers, immigration, students, and that is going to put some downward pressure at times, even though we've seen higher rents. At some point there's going to be a lack of people wanting to rent from all the people who've bought property. So with a 1 to 2 year delay, that could bring back some more sellers in the market than the market could be comfortable with. So we might be approaching some kind of peak level in property prices.
So you think in 2 years' time the prices will be lower than what it is now, kind of?
I think between now and 2 years we're going to see a peak and we're going to see consolidation. Whether that turns into a correction or not, I'm not sure. But we could be 5% lower, we could be 10% lower, we could be 5% higher. But I think people should be aware, and it's a really good question, because everyone at the moment just seems to think you buy property and you have no concerns, right? You don't want to be the last person to a party. And so I think people should be careful at this point in time. It's always about location, but you have to take into account location of, is there a vibrant community there, or was it once a student or Airbnb travellers region community, and therefore am I really sure that that's about to change?
Great. I also wanted to ask you about trade surplus in Australia. I think it was announced a few days ago that we reached a record high of 29 billion. How do we justify that? Or what's the explanation?
So that trade surplus, everyone got excited about it, and the Australian dollar went higher, right? It's since started to come off. But that trade surplus, everyone thought, aren't we doing well, Australia, record trade surplus? But compared to pre-COVID, so where we were before COVID hit in the first place, exports are only 5% higher.
Wow, okay.
So they're at a record level, but only 5% higher. Whereas imports are 10% lower. So actually the trade surplus was much more about weak imports than it was strong exports. But we tend to be very bullish in sentiment about what we're talking about these days. But I think people should realize that record trade surplus number was by no means all good news.
So it doesn't mean it's good news. We're only looking at one factor.
It is good news because the exports were stronger, but it's not an export story, it's a weak import story.
And also in the past couple of days, I think iron ore dropped about 9%. And what was the main reason that it dropped?
Well, I think Brazil's coming back online. So Brazil had massive interruption to supply because of COVID restrictions there, and some other factors, some weather factors. And China's been really pushing for Brazil to come back online because it wants to buy more iron ore from there, and it's stated that publicly. Australia's iron ore exports are a little bit at risk. They're still growing, but they're not growing to the same extent that the Chinese economy is growing. We used to be lock in step with them, and now we're starting to fall back a little bit, and China is publicly seeking iron ore from a greater variety of locations, which is a reasonable strategy for them to have, to be honest. You do want to diversify. So the iron ore price itself had a massive boom along with other commodities, but again, commodities were overshooting and they're now coming off. So even if you get a good rally in commodities or iron ore, it's probably not going to last at this stage. And we are seeing a slowing in global growth, which again is another downward pressure.
Yes, okay. Well, since we're talking about iron ore and China and the demand for iron ore, what do you think about the relations between Australia and China now in 2021, the second part of, or the second half of 2021? Are there any changes?
Yeah. So I think where the Chinese-Australian relationship is now is it's been brought to this place, however you view that place, by various forces on both sides. And from here, I don't see an improvement for 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
I think it is a long-term resetting of our relationship.
And we have to just adjust to it, basically.
And we are being reasonably effective at adjusting, but we're being effective at adjusting in difficult times. And I'm not sure when the global economy is back to perfect normal and supply is running smoothly in 2, 3, 4 years' time, that we will really be making up for what we could have had with China. Because even though our exports have stayed strong to China, they probably could have increased more than they have. So the relationship is having a hidden cost in that way. In other words, we could have been doing better, we just don't know we could have been doing better.
Yes, okay, I understand. Well, the last question I have is, we've seen the Australian dollar obviously rising to above 73 from the 60s zone. And do you think that's going to continue since we are now getting out of lockdowns? Are we managing kind of the Delta variant?
I think people have been overly confident about how quickly we're going to come out of restrictions. So there's going to be ongoing rolling restrictions, and I think they're going to be more adverse than people would like.
Okay.
And also, you've got to remember, if 70% of people are double vaccinated, then it means a third of the economy isn't going back to retail and shopping and hospitality.
Yeah.
You know, so the plan has fault lines. It's great that we are reopening. We have a pathway. I don't think the timetable of that pathway will be achieved in the way that the market was expecting.
Yes.
So markets, both equities and currency, are setting themselves up for disappointment at this stage.
Okay.
So I see the Aussie dollar being vulnerable to resuming its previous downtrend, because you'll probably remember, Alla, we called, ACY called the Australian dollar to 70 cents when it was at 77.45, and everyone in the market was bullish, and we said, no, it's going to 70 cents. It got down to about 70.70, so we almost got there.
Yes.
But I do think that's still, again, another risk in coming weeks as disappointment grows over our economic recovery, which won't be as strong this time.
And obviously the US is not any better. We're kind of in the same situation.
Yeah, and it's interesting. US is at about the vaccination rates Australia wants to get to on a national level. And yet their hospitals in some states are being overrun. We know they have lower vaccination in those states, but even in the high vaccination states, there is again hospital stress. And what's really interesting is the rise of Delta is generating a major slowdown in the US economy. Data's falling off a cliff at the moment, and that looks likely to continue. And that's all about the Delta surge. And that's why we need to be careful about how we approach this reopening.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Clifford. That was very, very educational for me.
Thank you.
And it's good that I got to see you face to face and ask you these questions face to face.
Yes.
I hope we can get back to the office soon so we can catch up more often.
And we'll probably do these once a month or something. So everyone out there, hit the like button. I know I'm just joking, but do hit the like button. We've enjoyed doing this, and we hope we've added value to how you're seeing things at the moment. Thanks very much for your questions.
Thank you.
Alla.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.